the president often gets criticized by Wall Street millionaires and billionaires for not being sufficiently pro-business, meaning they want even lower taxes and less regulation. So it must have come as some surprise to him when he opened a letter from a group of millionaires who, instead of insisting that the president extend their Bush tax cuts, this group of very wealthy Americans asked the president not to extend our cuts, but rather to let them expire on anyone making $1 million or more. Everyone from hedge fund managers to the co-founder of Ben & Jerry's ice cream signed a letter which reads, quote, "We have done very well over the last several years. Now, during our nation's moment of need, we are eager to do our fair share. We don't need more tax cuts." Which American millionaires did not sign the letter? Well, the 50% of House and Senate members who are, you guessed it, millionaires. Now compare that to the general U.S. population, where fewer than 1% are millionaires. So those guys didn't sign on, of course, but these guys did. John Katzman is the founder of the test prep company, the Princeton Review, and Dennis Mehiel is the chairman of and CEO of the 4M Corporation and chairman of the Fonda Group. They both signed a letter to the president. It's a great pleasure to have you guys here, and it's a very brave thing that you did, which is fantastic. John, let me start with you. Why? Why do you want to get taxed more?
I think the wealthy have done really well for the past decade. In fact, they're the only group that have done really well. Everybody's got to take their fair share at this point, both tax increases and spending cuts, and we're just saying we're willing to step up.
Right. Now, Dennis, how do you think it affects your business? Because the Republicans will say, hey, you know what? You guys are the job creators. We need to get you more money so you hire more people. Is it that simple, or does it the tax cuts affect you differently?
Just not true at all. It's a spurious argument. Particularly if you raise that threshold from the $250 the administration and many Democrats are supporting to the $1 million that Chuck Schumer has recommended as a different benchmark. You get ordinary, personal income to individuals who own businesses at $1 million and above, and to suggest that 3 or 4% in their personal income tax rate is going to have any material impact on on how they operate their business is frankly nonsense.
Yeah, John, let me go to that. I mean, they keep talking about uncertainty. I don't want to make money until I can figure out what my taxes are going to be. I mean, I own a small business too. It's our online show, and we actually do fairly well. And I've never thought, oh my God, I'm not going to make money until they lower my taxes. Has that ever crossed your guys' minds?
I think changing around the tax code is not a good thing. You make change slowly and leave it alone whenever possible. But the fact is, the Bush tax cuts were unnecessary. We weren't asking for them. They've been a huge good thing financially, but they're glad to see them go.
Yeah, and does it possibly, Dennis, hurt your guys and everybody's long-term prospects if the deficit is so out of whack, and if the tax cuts for millionaires added so much to the deficit?
Now you're at the heart of the issue. The question is, what's in the national interest? And if beginning the process of thinking about paying our bills as a country, which is what this does, people talk about $700 billion over 10 years. Honestly, at the fiscal place we are right now, it's bigger than a rounding area. It's material, but it's certainly not the full solution. And when you put it in context, where 30 years ago we were paying 83% effective tax rate if we lived in New York, 83%, 91% back in the 50s. Reagan restructured taxes and went down into the mid-30s or wherever it was, and another 3 or 4% now. If it's in the national interest, if the capital markets around the world, we have suppressed interest rates right now because of specific governmental actions, but we're not going to live with this forever. People are going to charge us more for the money we need to borrow. As the country can do better, I'm in industry. I can do better in my business. If the country's going down the tubes, the fact that I save 3% of my personal income is certainly not going to be helpful to me in my manufacturing business.
Dennis, I want to stay on that because that's really interesting. Like, Bill Clinton raised taxes by a little bit after Reagan and George H.W. Bush, but the economy boomed so much that the rich made more money.
There was a reason for that. Okay? He raised my marginal tax rate from, I think, 36 to 39%. Cost me, personally, several $100,000 a year. I'm not quite in my colleagues' category. My cost of capital when Wall Street decided the government was thinking about paying its bills, dropped at the time 300 basis points. That's 3% to your viewers. And over the 90s, I was carrying debt $300, $400, $500, $800 million. So the reduced cost of capital in my business, and you spread that across the whole economy, business boomed, lower cost of capital. Now we're in a different place today, but fundamentally, if we begin to do things that are responsible, then the country's going to do better, business is going to do better, industry's going to do better. I'm convinced of it.
And look, the proof is in the pudding, too. At the end of the Clinton years, 22 million jobs created. At the end of the 8 Bush years, less than 1 million jobs created. It's a huge difference. John, let me ask you about this. You know, again, as a small business owner, if my personal income taxes are high, I'm actually motivated, so you guys run bigger business, that's why I want to ask you. I'm motivated to actually keep the money in my business as opposed to taking it out and then paying a higher personal income tax. But if my taxes are lower, personal income taxes, I'm motivated to take the money out. So you see what I'm saying? Does that factor into your equation at all? So does having higher taxes, personal income tax, actually lead you to keep more money in your business?
It may well. I mean, the fact is, when you lower our taxes, all you do is bid up the cost of BMWs, right? The smart thing to do is invest, and you're only paying taxes on the profit. And so further investment in your business is to everybody's benefit, and then it ends up being a long-term gain anyway. So I just don't buy that any jobs are going to get lost with a small increase to the wealthy.
Right. So look, then let's talk about the other guys, because there's a lot of millionaires on the other side of this issue who are spending a lot of political money to make sure that they get their guys into office who cut their taxes.
Right, right.
I mean, you guys say it's your patriotic duty to pay your fair share. Are they being unpatriotic?
You know, listen, I'm not gonna cast aspersions on anyone else's motives. I think that, and there are meritorious, people can have an argument on any side of an issue, okay? But where I think they are misguided is the fiscal situation that the country faces. And to suggest that somehow we're going to be able to get back into some reasonable balance without any sacrifice. It just doesn't make any sense. And so we have to determine whether we want to pursue our short-term self-interest, or do we want to pursue the long-term best interest of the nation as a whole on the theory that we and our children and our grandchildren can continue to do well in this country and find a way to prosper. And that's where we are. So they have their point of view, but I mean, I could not disagree with it more. I think it's frankly short-sighted and just incorrect.
John and Dennis, a great conversation. Two guys who are literally millionaires saying we need to raise the taxes for the good of the country and the good of the economy. And it's a brave argument to make. We really appreciate you guys joining us.
Good to be with you.
All right, thank you.